In the previous episode, Diep was lucky, saved just in time by Trang from John's ruthless men. But this time, that stroke of luck no longer smiled upon her. John's men came all the way to her house, dragging Diep into a storm of chaos with no way out. When James heard the news, he rushed out like a man who'd lost his mind. Deep in the endless forest, his voice echoed as he called her name, blending into the wind, into the rustle of leaves. But what answered him was only a silence so haunting it pierced through the soul. The whole mountain seemed to swallow every sound, leaving behind only the pounding of his heart, fast, desperate, and full of fear. Today's episode will be a breathless chapter where love, honesty, and betrayal collide in a storm of emotions. Stay with me through this journey, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss a single heartbeat of this story. The house was steeped in the smell of tobacco. Light from the window slanted across the rough wooden table. Mr. Kwan sat silently, his gaze heavy, fixed somewhere far away. His calloused hands gripped the bamboo pipe tightly. Thick white smoke coiled and drifted in the air, gathering, then fading away again. Through that haze, the lines on his face seemed deeper. The weariness of a man who had spent too long in a life of schemes and rivalries. Soft footsteps sounded faintly against the tiled floor. Trang appeared. Small-framed, her eyes still clouded with worry. She hesitated at the doorway, gently adjusting the edge of her blouse, as if tidiness could bring her a little calm before facing her father. The air was thick with smoke, the space dim and heavy, hard to breathe. She knew she had made him angry the day before, for saving Diep, for standing in the way of his and her brother's plan. She knew one wrong word could push them even farther apart. So Trang tried to keep her tone light, meaning only to greet him and leave for work early, hoping things might pass as if nothing had happened. But Mr. Kwan called her back. His voice was hoarse and low, as though holding back a wave rising inside him. At first, he asked only a few gentle questions. "How's work lately?" Trang answered softly, careful and polite. But only moments later his tone changed, colder now, edged with suspicion. He stared straight into her eyes. "Then why did you save that girl, Diep?" The air in the room went still. Trang lifted her head. Her eyes, bright in the sunlight filtering through the window bars, were calm, yet fierce. In that instant she realized this was no longer a talk between father and daughter, but a confrontation between two people standing on opposite sides of what was right. "I only did what was right, father. Diep did nothing wrong." His hand slammed against the table. The sound cracked through the air like a blade striking wood. Smoke still drifted above them, curling through their heavy breaths. Trang didn't look away. Her voice trembled slightly, but her words were firm. "I know you love Mother, and you love me. But I can't agree with hurting others, no matter the reason." The room sank into silence. The old ceiling fan creaked. The sound of cicadas outside grew faint. Mr. Kwan looked at his daughter. For a fleeting moment, something flickered in his eyes, then turned cold again. "Fine. You've grown up. You think you're wise now. Then go. And don't ever come back to this house." Trang stood up, lips pressed tight. She said nothing more. The sunlight from the doorway fell across her face, strong, yet filled with pain. The door closed behind her. The house was left dim, thick with smoke. And the old man sat alone, staring into the dark, his eyes heavy with anger, and a loneliness too deep to name. The winding dirt road curved gently along the mountainside, where the hum of cicadas blended with the whisper of the wind, weaving together a tender summer melody. Diep walked slowly, a bag of freshly picked herbs in her hand, still damp with the morning dew. She gathered leaves and made medicine for the villagers. Every house she stopped by greeted her with warm smiles and heartfelt words of gratitude. Life was simple, but peaceful, just like the quiet soul of the young woman herself. From afar, the soft hum of an engine echoed. James appeared, calm and familiar, riding his old motorbike. He stopped midway up the slope, resting one hand on the handlebar, watching Diep approach, the corners of his lips curling into a smile he couldn't quite hide. Together, they walked along the path, stopping at each home to deliver medicine. Their laughter mingled with the chatter of children playing in the lanes, and for a moment, the entire village seemed to glow, alive, bright, and full of warmth. James teased lightly. "Didn't expect our village doctor to be this popular." "Everywhere you go, people adore you." Diep laughed, glancing at him with a playful look. Her laughter rang clear and pure, carried away by the wind, spreading across the fields like sunlight. But soon after, amid that peaceful rhythm, Diep lowered her gaze, her voice softening. "If one day I disappeared, what would you do?" James froze. He didn't answer right away. His eyes drifted toward the distant ridge, where white clouds floated lazily above the mountains. After a long pause, he spoke, his voice deep, slow, and trembling with truth. "I wouldn't survive." The wind kept blowing, but the air around them seemed to still. Cicadas buzzed faintly in the afternoon heat, and sunlight slanted gently toward the end of the day. In that fleeting moment, though both still smiled, there was a quiet unease behind their smiles, as if somewhere not far away, a storm was slowly stirring behind the calm white clouds. Deep in the forest, light flickered through the thick canopy, casting shifting shadows across John's cold, expressionless face. He leaned against the trunk of an ancient tree, lit a cigarette, and watched the smoke curl upward, his eyes distant and calculating. Around him, his men worked quickly, illegally cutting timber under his quiet command. Their whispers were short, efficient, and cautious, every movement smooth and practiced, like a hidden machine operating in the dark. From a concealed spot nearby, Officer Lee observed in silence, recording John's illegal logging through the lens of his phone. Sweat soaked his shoulders, but his gaze remained sharp, unflinching. He was determined to capture every piece of evidence. Later that evening, Lee met with James at a small roadside cafe, where the scent of coffee mingled with the dusty air of dusk. At a worn wooden table, the two men sat across from each other, the yellow light overhead spilling down on faces drawn tight with tension. Lee unlocked his phone and replayed the footage he had taken in the forest. John's face appeared clearly on the screen, cold, focused, ruthless. The sound of chainsaws, the sharp bark of orders. James froze, staring in disbelief. He said nothing for a long time. The can in his hand crumpled under his grip, the metal bending and groaning. Lee's voice broke the silence, low but firm. "We're opening a special operation to capture John. But until the warrant is issued, you must keep this to yourself. He's extremely dangerous. But elsewhere, Far from that quiet cafe, the storm John had set in motion had already begun to rise. The peace of the quiet village shattered. The sound of heavy boots thudding against the earth tore through the midday stillness. A group of men in dark clothing, their faces hidden behind masks, stormed into the yard. Their eyes were cold, and their voices sliced through the air like knives. "Where's that girl, Diep? Bring her out, now!" The old landlady stumbled backward, her hands clutching the edge of her blouse. She hasn't come back from work yet," she stammered, her voice trembling. One of the men stepped forward, his tone low and threatening, his gaze sweeping across the wooden house. When they couldn't find her, the chaos began. Furniture crashed, drawers were yanked open, curses filled the heavy air. The clatter of breaking objects echoed through the heat of noon. At that moment, from the dirt road behind the house, Diep appeared, a basket of herbs still slung across her back. The scene before her froze her in place. The old woman was being grabbed by the collar, her eyes wide with terror. Without thinking, Diep dropped the basket to the ground and shouted, "Don't hurt her! I'm right here!" The men spun around, their eyes flashing with malice. "Get her," one of them hissed. Diep turned and ran. Footsteps thundered behind her, the sound of branches snapping, leaves rustling. The sharp rhythm of pursuit mixed with the rasp of breath and the wind cutting past her ears. She darted through wet grass, stumbling down a muddy slope. Sweat and tears blurred her vision, but she kept running, as if stopping for even a second would let the darkness devour her whole. A branch whipped across her face, stinging her skin. She tripped and tumbled down the hill. Her knees scraped the dirt, blood seeping through, but not a sound escaped her lips. The footsteps grew louder, pounding through the forest like drums of a hunt. She forced herself up, staggering forward, clutching at tree trunks to keep from falling. Behind her, the men's shouts cut through the trees. Under the harsh sunlight, Diep's small figure disappeared into the forest. The trembling leaves above her seemed to offer shelter, yet there was something ominous beneath that light, as if the woods themselves were about to swallow her whole. James reached the house and froze at the sight before him. The wooden door creaked softly in the wind. A few scattered objects lay broken on the ground. The old woman sat collapsed on the porch, her face pale, eyes wide in shock, still trembling from what had just happened. James rushed to her, his voice urgent. "Where's Diep? Where is she?" The woman looked up at him, her lips quivering, tears glistening in her eyes as she pointed toward the forest. There were so many of them. She ran toward the stream. James didn't wait to hear the rest. He sprinted off. His shoes pounded against the earth, dust rising with every stride. He tore through the narrow path across a small wooden bridge, his heartbeat crashing in his chest like thunder. "Diep! Diep, where are you?" His voice echoed through the forest, swallowed by the damp, eerie silence of the woods. He slipped, falling hard by the stream, water splashing up around him. But he didn't stop. James pushed himself up, shouting her name again and again, his eyes scanning the trees, the faint footprints in the mud. Every rustle of leaves made him think he could hear her, the sound of her hurried breath, her fragile footsteps blending into the forest. Sweat drenched his face. His breath came in sharp, uneven gasps. His voice cracked, filled with desperation. "Diep? I'm here. I'm right here." But the only answer was the murmur of the stream. and the endless drone of cicadas echoing through the mountains.